So today I'm here to share a very inspirational story. One about a black woman who has made an amazing mark in history. I find myself to be most honored to have her here today, and I'm sure you would too. I'm talking about a woman who was the first African American woman to work on Wall Street as a broker and trader. A woman who retired from Wall Street at 38 when most women were just starting life. A woman who is not just an amazing entrepreneur, but one who loves God, fears God, and is a Reverend Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about no other person than Reverend Dr. Jenna Woodhouse.
Okay.
Did I hear the drum roll? Wow. I have read so much about you. You're an inspiration to me and so many other black women out there, and it is an honor to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be able to meet you and speak with you also.
So young and simple. Oh my goodness, I love you. I love you.
Now we're gonna work on this because I know we've relegated your name to Chi. That I know that's terrible. And I'm Yana.
Okay.
With sounds like a Y.
Yeah, it's Yana.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
No, it's okay because it's spelled with a J.
So you'd have to pronounce my name.
Oh goodness. Chioma.
Good.
Chioma. With the attitude. Wait a minute.
So it's Yana and
Chioma. What does Chioma mean?
Good God.
Oh wow, good God.
Good.
And Yana means the beginning.
Oh, so it's the beginning of the good God. Amazing. Okay, now I looked you up and I read your story and I was so inspired. But I really want to go way back to how it all started for you.
Okay.
And a little bit about childhood. I wouldn't mind a little bit about childhood too, to help, tell the story, because I didn't see any of that.
That's true. I guess, it starts back, I guess it started with my dad, Joseph Woodhouse. And my dad was a semi-entrepreneur because he still worked for a butchering company, cutting meats. But then he sold meat up on Sugar Hill in Harlem to the black actors, during the evening. And he said to me, I used to complain because he wouldn't be home a lot. And I'd say, Daddy, everybody else's father is taking them places and stuff. And we don't go out. Mommy takes us out, but you don't. And he said, and his manner was, Sugar, it's simple. I provide the money, so you don't have to worry. And he says, if you don't remember anything else in life, he who writes the check is free. So if you own your own business, you will be free. But until you own your own business, you are not free. You are owned by your bosses. So at age 8, I went around trying to find a way to write checks. The only person who would take it was my mother, and it was done in crayon with little colors on it. And after that, then it was finding out how to do things that was going to bring money and to save. I would save my allowance while my brother Kevin would spend all of his, and I would take mine and put it away. As a matter of fact, I still have my first savings account that I ever had. It's a little bit of money in it, but I found it. It's got like $125 in it. But I was putting in little money, until then. And I didn't see really the need for all the little extras that everybody else would get. I want big stuff, so I would, where kids for Christmas would ask for toys, I asked for a color TV. I needed things that worked. So when I was in my big story was, we came from the projects here in New York, and we had a terrace that we shared amongst all of the kids on the floor. And I lived on the 13th floor in the Bronx, and the Butler Borgia projects. And I watched the Little Rascals and saw they had a clubhouse, so I created a clubhouse for us. But I just charged the children 25 cents.
Can you just bat your eyes?
But it was fair. It was 25 cents for the week.
Okay.
And I would provide my toys, you know, my games, and we had a hopscotch and a Lodi's game that we painted. And I'll never forget, one of our neighbors, his dad thought this was so great for the summer that he gave us the paint. And then what I would do is, and now this is a long time ago, because then someone just called my attention to it, that the amount that we pay for our metro system is the same amount that we pay for pizza. And so I didn't even recognize it until she mentioned it, but we used to have pizza and it was 10 cents for the slice, and that's how much the metro was at the time. But the thing was is I would get a whole pizza,
Yeah.
and that's what we would have on the weekend. But I would only hold like 10% of whatever I collected for me, and that's where it started, my first my first business. There's still people looking for me because of that. They said, "Do you realize that you made us pay for our own terrorists?" But you know, it was my mindset to try to find out, how do I start to write checks? How do I own my own business? So I tried a lot of different things, you know, as growing up young. If an opportunity arose, I take it. And that's where I think a lot of young people today miss out on taking advantage of opportunities, because if you were living at home, you don't have to worry about bills, have fun, figure out what things are all about. So for my years in high school, my mother sent me to a preparatory school, and we had a very small school. It was average 5 students in a classroom. Yeah, so we had very specialized education, which was great. But my teacher owned a tax office. And one day we were taking a typing test, and he was a typing teacher and the only African American teacher in the school. And he said, he came in real disgruntled. And I said, "How could I help? Could I help?" And he said, "See me after you graduate." That was my senior year. And so I went to see him, and he taught me how to...
After you graduated?
After I graduated, that September, I went to see him, and he sat me in the library and taught me how to do taxes. And so that following January, I started working for him. Now, the little side story is the fact that I didn't realize that he had his office in Brooklyn, which was 2 hours away from where I lived. And I wanted to do it, and having a great mom who was like, "Okay, you want to do this. The only way you're going to get to do this and get to him by 9 o'clock, that means you have to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm going with you." So she traveled the 2 hours with me, and she would sit, and she and Mr. Henderson had a wonderful time singing and playing and having fun, and while I worked.
While you did the work?
While I worked. But 2 years after working for him, I bought the business.
You did?
Yeah, I was 19 years old.
You bought his business?
His business. He was ready to give it up, and so I bought it. And then I rehired him to stay in the front, so that, because I didn't look really like 19, I looked more or less like maybe about 17 or so much younger. And so people are not going to give me their business, so I put him in the front.
And all of this came up from offering to help?
Yeah.
Trying to find out what was wrong and how you could help?
Yeah, that's
it. It's an amazing story.
But that's what you do in life, is you step out and you try to help people, and then you find that opportunity, something, maybe God will open up the door, that something great will happen for you.
Now, first African American woman, there are two major factors that usually would be a stumbling block for so many people.
Yeah.
One, African American. Two, woman. Now, Wall Street.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It was interesting. My tax office was one that where it started to develop clients who had a few dollars to invest, and that was in the early 80s and really the late 70s, early 80s. And I wanted them to be able to invest. But I didn't know much about investing. I knew accounting, and I was working on my master's degree at the time, but they didn't teach us all about investing, just how the vehicle worked. And so I sent them to financial advisors, and they'd come back and no one wanted to service them. So they would have less than, some would have 50,000, some might have 10. Back in those days, that was a mutual fund. You couldn't even invest if you didn't have $10,000. So I was like, well, I need to find out how this whole system works. And so one day I was standing in the living room at home and I saw Wall Street and I saw it trading. And I was like, well, how do you do that? And so I started asking people, how do you get to Wall Street? And some people were kind of funny and told me, take the 4 train to Fulton, you get there. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I'm trying to get to. I want to work on Wall Street. Then I found out that there weren't a lot of women working, definitely not any black women, and most were doing back office. And I was like, I don't want to do back office. That's clerical work. I want to trade.
And at this point, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I want to trade. I want to do things. I want to know how this market works, and how do we make money? Because the market was doing wonderful. Well, at that time, the Dow Jones was like 1,800, so it wasn't, now we're at 24,000, But I wanted to know. And so I asked a lot of people, nobody knew. And a friend of mine saw an ad in the New York Times, and it was for First Investors, which was a mutual fund company, and no experience was needed. Sounded like something for me. But it was in Scarsdale, New York. So I was like, okay, I gotta try to drive upstate to do this. But I did. I got the job. But I realized that's not what I wanted to do. That's just selling. I didn't want to sell. I want to trade. I want to change people's lives. And so I was a little nudge, which I normally have been, is that I keep saying, okay, how do I get to Wall Street? And one of the guys there, and wherever he is, bless his soul, O'Neill, said, look, Woodhouse, if I get you an interview on Wall Street for a firm, will you stop asking? So I said, yeah, I'll stop. I lied, because I would have kept going. So I had an interview on Wall Street, at the exchange with a gentleman, and he basically looked at me and said, oh, 1 minute. So he makes a telephone call and he calls over to the president of the firm that I worked for, Omni Mutual, Harry Abrams, and said, hey, Harry, I got something here for you. And she's not questionable. I didn't know what the world he was talking about, but I was getting angry.
I'm getting angry.
You see? He said, so I'm going to send her over to you. You take a look at her and see if she'll work for you. I was like, well, I'll be doggone. And I didn't know, but then I was like, well, maybe this is my way to get in. Mm-hmm. So I said, I can swallow this. And so I did. And I took my little envelope over to Wall Street on the 10th floor. And people thought I was coming for a secretary's job. And I was like, no, I'm here to work as a broker. And they were like, So needless to say, God would have it. Again, I do believe God intervenes for us, because this one guy, Cy, came up to me and said, so what you here for? And I said, I'm going to be a broker. And he's like, oh, they're going to put you on the bond desk, right? Because you going on the bond desk. And I was like, no, I'm going to trade. And he's like, you want to be a full service broker? And I said, yes, I want. He says, well, you're either going to be a full service broker or you're going on the bond desk. Which one do you want? And so I was like, I didn't know what the difference was. So he says, well, if you're going to sit in those desks, pointing to where the bullpen was, he says, you got to be a full service broker. And I don't think you can make it. So when I got to Harry says, so what you want to do? You'll work here. We'll take you. We got to get you a Series 7. We got to beef you up a little bit, but you'll work. And so I said, I want to be a full service broker. And so I didn't really know what that was entailing, but I did. And he says, well, if you want to do that, we're going to have to make you even better. We're going to have to get you to pass a few more licenses and stuff. And I was like, I don't care. I came, and my mom always wanted me to be a lawyer. And I thought, I took the LSATs and I got accepted, but I didn't really want to do that. So when I came home, after I passed my Series 7 license, and I'd done a few trades, in that 2-week period, the first 2 weeks in December, I earned $10,000. And I came back with this check, which I thought they had made a regal mistake. Because I said, they're going to come back and get this money because I haven't worked that hard. And
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And the guy, Cy, came back up to me and he says, what you looking so strange for? I said, they're going to get me. I got this check and I think it's the wrong check. And he says, how much is it? I said, it's $10,000. And so he says, that's all you made? I was like, okay, I have found the promised land. And so I said, okay. So I went home, showed my mom, and she's like, well, forget about that lawyer thing. Okay. And so I was like, okay. So I went back to...
she's a true African woman.
Hi, I'm Yana B. Woodhouse, the first African-American woman to trade on Wall Street, and you are watching Priority TV. A lot of different things that were difficult. It wasn't nice all the time, but the best way I've learned in life to overcome racism and sexism is beat them, outproduce them. So that's what I did. And I kept my mindset. I still had my tax office, so my money that I made with taxes became my retirement money. So I didn't even spend it. And so I built it up. And then that's why when I turned 38, I was so done. I was tired. So I retired. But I retired from doing something that I love. And that's why I'm back doing it again. After a few adventures with my brother Matt, I decided to come back into the industry because there's something missing, especially in the African American community, is knowledge of how money works. And so I'm back, and I've been back. I've been training, like today I had a training for my associates. Our goal is to teach not only Americans, but all over the world how money works. The United States is number 14th in financial literacy. We're supposed to be the financial capital of the world, but we're number 14. The average person in America does not understand how money works.
So where does that leave Africa?
That's rough. But you know what? In Africa, and I give it to the places that I visited, the power behind the marketplace has always been the women. The women running the marketplaces. We don't have that here. And that's what needs to change. But we need to have like a Pan-African women's event where we all get together and work together, because we can change the world.
Yes, we can.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely can.
Yeah.
So I'd like to find out, what's your definition of wealth and success?
Being in a position of where you can help others while helping yourself and making changes in this world, making a statement in this world. So it's wealth and power go together. It's building a legacy. It's to say that you will never, your name or your deeds will never die. It may not be your name, but it'll definitely be your deed. And that, I think, is real wealth. A lot of people put it in the money side, but it's not just money. It's really about the things that you do here. You know, for me, making the change that there are young black women out there that see me and say, I can do that. You know, she did it, I can do it. And then to be able to have places where, my vision is to have places where people can go and develop themselves spiritually. We are a spiritual people. And somewhere in there, we're losing that connection. I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about spirituality. That's our power. And I think that if we have more centers and places out here that people can communicate, and that's where the change will take place. So that's where I see where the wealth comes in. Wealth is making a difference in this world, not just the even though there is a wealth formula.
Which you will share.
Okay, I'll share it. It's money plus or minus interest plus time plus inflation and taxation. That's wealth. Got to have money, some type of money. But a lot of us think that money, you have to have a lot to start to invest. In this world today, as opposed to yesteryear when I first started, when you needed $10,000, and even today, I have to say my counterparts and have done an injustice to Main Street America, because they only talk to folks who have like $100,000 income and $500,000 to invest. But the majority, Main Street America, is not in that. What do you do with the 99% of Americans? And the beauty in it is that we can invest now the same way as the wealthy, and as little as $10. I think that's awesome. And we can do things that we can share. If we build wealth, we can share internationally. That's where I see that we're not. There's a bridge, a gap there that needs to stop. I hear some very foul things. People talking about my brothers and sisters from Africa and brothers and sisters from Africa talking about us here. We're all one. You know, I talked to one of my clients, he's from Nigeria, and I remember he saw me with a mudcloth jacket on. And he said, why you wear that? And so I said, why wouldn't I? And so he says, I thought it was a rhetorical question. And so he said, well, it's not for you. I was like, why not? He says, because you're not African. And I was like, I'm not? When did that happen? And so he said, he says, well, you're not physically from Africa. I'm not? And he says, no, you know that. And I said, no, let me ask you a question. Do you have nieces? And so he says, of course. I said, have they come here? And he says, yes. I said, are they not African? He said, of course they are. I said, well, cousin.
We're family.
We're family. I know. I sat in the airport seeing off some of my friends going to Senegal, and I cried because people walked up to me and they were like, Ningadef. And I said, magnifique. And Lord, don't ask me anything else because I don't know how to talk. But they figured I was, because I look like, but I only speak English and a little French. So, you know, it's us understanding and helping each other and coming together, you know. Instead of us saying no right away to everything, because we're the first people who say, no, it's not happening, no, it's not going to happen. Let's say yes. Let's see how we can do it. How can we work together?
Mm-hmm. Now, in the light of this, looking at Africa and looking at saying yes, how can it happen? You see a lot of poverty in the midst of so much wealth. What would you say is the reason for this, and how can we say yes and make things better?
We have to see ourselves in our people. When we see Africa, you see the hunger and things that are going on, the raping of Africa, and we don't connect with it. We think that's something different than us. We have to change. I really would love to give all of us a lobotomy, just cut our brains open and clean it out from all the stuff that we think, because we don't see people. I had a young lady come to me, and she was saying that she was collecting in South Africa for the young girls to make sure they had their feminine products. And I was like, what do you mean they don't have feminine products? The country's wealthy. And she says, no, there are many townships where the girls are still using rags. I was appalled. And so I pulled together and went and bought a bunch of feminine products. But getting them there was the problem, And so I think that ultimately, if we end up with a communication system, just like me meeting you, we stay in communication, see what we can do, what's the need, let us each see each other, knowing that there's really no difference between us. The thing is just the way we think. We separate ourselves, and we gotta stop that. It's just like I've met a lot of people, I have clients who have bought in Ghana and bought homes, and some part of me wants to do that too, to be able to. I love being in Africa. All that fallacy of what they show us on TV, like people jumping from trees and stuff, that's stupid stuff. But to go and see, and some people have said, well, when I go to Africa, they treat us Americans different. And I say, you're lying. You are different. Because when I go to Africa because I'm going home. You go and you're a guest. That's the difference. If I go, I'm looking at, and if I have trouble, it's just like when you have trouble with a family member, you got to straighten them out, right? It's like, I came home. Why are you treating me like this? It's not my fault of what happened and how we went across the waters, but it is my fault if you keep treating me differently.
And I don't say anything about it.
That's
I don't try to straighten out.
That's it. I got to straighten you out, And all the time that every country I've gone to in Africa, I act like I'm home. And I say, well, I don't know exactly how to say this, but you're going to teach me.
So I have beef right now. Communication is important. It's important for us to straighten things out. So I'm talking to you as my sister. I have beef.
Okay.
Yeah. So why is it Ghana? Why is it Senegal? Why not Nigeria? So when are you coming home?
I'm coming home to Nigeria. My next trip to Africa will be Nigeria. Okay. I will guarantee.
You promise?
I promise.
I'll keep tabs. Very good.
The good part.
I will give you a local name.
Okay.
Would you want to be from the east, the west, or the north?
Oh, goodness gracious.
So the east.
Where are you from?
I'm from the east. So
okay, I want to be from the east.
Chinyere, Mwamaka. From the north, Zainab, Halima. From the west, Kemi, Ronke, Chioma, Chinyere.
Chinyere.
Ndidi.
What does that mean?
Ndidi means patience.
Oh, that's me.
Chinyere means God's gift.
Yes, you're
God's gift.
But you said Didi?
Ndidi.
Ndidi.
Yeah.
Ndidi.
So that would be your name.
Yeah, that would be.
So now this is Ndidi. What else?
I'm home.
Oh, you are.
And my sister.
My long-lost sister. All right, now, talking about having started your business when you were a little girl and building it up and, using your toys instead of just having fun with your toys with your friends and neighbors, you're now using it for business and all that. Does that make you a very boring person?
I don't think so.
Would you say you're a boring person?
Oh, no, I'm not boring.
Are you sure?
I'm almost
well, you're not, honestly, because this conversation is really interesting.
I don't think, when I first decided that I was going into accounting, and I thought it was like really, it's really boring, and you're dealing with numbers, and but you get an opportunity to deal with people, and that's what's important. So I originally started with dealing in just basic accounting, where I was in a room and handling books and ledgers, and I realized that's not me. I need to talk to folks. As a matter of fact, this year I started thinking of a new career, naming it financial therapist, because I think people come and they dump all of this stuff, and I was like, well, I have my doctorate in divinity. Maybe I can work this thing out here, because that's what I feel like. People need to be groomed and coddled and listened to, but then I got to get to their finances. But most of the time I can't get to it without listening. So that's what I see is that, for the future for me, it's interesting. Someone asked me, when am I going to retire? This is my 60th birthday year. Yeah. Thank you. That's home. So, to be able, I've been in business for 40 years, a little bit over now, because I started when I was 19 with my own, but then I did before. So I look at it and I said, the people say, when are you going to retire? And I said, well, you retire when you're tired of doing what you love to do. Well, I am not tired of what I do. I love what I do. Now, I might slow up a little bit, travel a little bit more, because I miss traveling. But I'll never stop.
Please don't. Please.
And I'm mentoring more and more individuals to come into this industry. It's unfortunate that many of our young people shy away from really the finance. They don't realize how much money it is in this industry by helping people, and this is just one. I've done workshops, and I have to almost pull folks to come hear me. Now, once they hear me, it's a different story, but sometimes you have to say, listen, because we're used to, when it comes to finance, when it comes on the television, we click the remote, but that's where the money, that's how you live. If it's a difference between whether you're going to live a comfortable life, because we're going to live long, we're living long, to whether we're going to live a life of poverty and on the street.
And what we'll leave behind for our children.
Yeah, and that's what we have to do. And I have a program called Today's Child, Tomorrow's Millionaire. Will you save $2 a day to make sure your child is a millionaire for the future? That's all it is getting people acclimated to understanding, having a relationship with their money. If you have a relationship with your money, you won't give it away so fast. But we don't have that relationship. We have a card, they put the money on the card, we swipe the card, we never touch it, so those are the things that need to change.
Wow. I'm even thinking, it's really a lot to chew on here. I don't have a relationship with my money. You see that?
And
it's crazy.
I got a solution. Now, this is the first time I've ever really spoken it, but here's my solution. Instead of having everything automated, go get the cash, get the money, lay it in the bed, lay with it.
I like that.
Get a little relationship with the money. Feel it. A lot of relationships are made in beds. So relate with it in the bed, and then take it now instead of putting it back in the bank or in a financial vehicle. Start to share it this way. Work with it. Now you get a relationship. Now you understand. I need to put money away for myself. Those are the things that I teach, because many people say, how do I pay myself first? Well, we have so many things. We have a little game I give my clients. I tell them, hoard your fives. So when you, at the end of the day, have $5, it's got to go, hoard it, put it away somewhere. Or save $1 for every day in the week. And at the end of the year, you'll have $1,378. You know, it's not a lot, but if you do that again and again, in 10 years, you've got over $13,000. Well, that's more than what you've ever had. So get a relationship.
I'm definitely working in that relationship.
Yeah, have a relationship. And work for your knowing that you're going to live and that you need money to support that life. You know, be whatever it is. I know in Nigeria it's really wonderful because there's some, well, it used to be good interest rates. Now it's a little falling down a bit, but I follow a lot of international currency also. And it was doing pretty well. A few years ago, it was like up to 10% on the money. Now it's much less, but we still have to put our money in different places, so and so that we can generate, and then we can pool money together. You know, culturally here and in the Caribbean, there was a thing called the Susu. Yeah,
still have it in Nigeria.
They still do Susu, right? And it was so funny. I was going to a financial seminar where I was managing a 401k plan for a copy company. And I mentioned about the Susu, and the European people who were there thought I was doing another investment outside of what we had. And I was like, you don't know what a Susu is? I said, culturally, I was telling the people, don't just rely on the Susu. But when you do the Susu, make sure that you put it somewhere where it's growing and not just spend it.
Yeah.
Because that's what we wind up doing, getting all this money together and then we spend it.
Yeah. Maybe like most times we get it together and we just buy a color television.
Yeah, buy something. But instead,
like you.
yeah, well, I just asked for it for free. I've been very blessed. But you know, it's like if we all pooled that together, think about what we could do. There are many cultures who do that. You know, they get $14,000 and then pool it together. You got 13, I got 13, this one got 13. You know, we all put it together, and then we do something big. We create a playground or a center or something.
So now, a young person out there has some money to invest. What will be your top 5 advice?
Sit with a financial advisor first. Have your goals of what and the timeline for these goals to be achieved, because the product is not important. There's plenty of products out there, but where to invest will be related to the timeline and your goal. So when I give people, I do free financial analysis for everyone. And when I produce that document, I'm like, okay, you got to bring me your debt. You got to bring me how much you earn, how much you spend, so we have a budget. Do you have life insurance? Because I am so sick, and this is for folks who are born are in this country, and this means African, Caribbean, I don't care where you're from. You need some insurance. Hi, I'm Yana B. Woodhouse, the first African-American woman to trade on Wall Street, and you are watching Priority TV. So once we put together the financial strategy, then the third thing would be finding the proper tools, the investments. You know, it could be stocks. It could be, if you don't have a lot, then maybe it might be some ETF. It could be a lot of different types of products. So we gotta go shopping. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't like to shop for clothes. I'd rather someone else just bring stuff to me, but I will shop for an investment. And so fourth is the implementation, not to run away from it. So when I got you, now I've got to educate you and keep you focused on keeping the plan in order. So every 6 months at a minimum, you got to sit with one of my financial advisors or myself. And then last but not least, do it all over again. Every year, reassess where you're at and don't dip. See, this thing is called the dip dance. You know, they got to dip. I got to dip into the savings, dip into my retirement, dip. Stop. Live with what's within your means. and you will be fine. You'll have wealth.
Amazing. A woman of God.
Yes.
A reverend.
Yeah.
How do you balance it? Because, a lot of people feel you can be successful, you can be in a financial institution and still know God or serve God without compromising.
If you don't know God, you can't last in the financial world. You will eventually burn out. The average financial advisor stops working within 11 years of coming into the industry. I have lasted almost 40 years just in that industry. And it's because of the fact I'm not out here to get rich quick. I believe in the principles of what God has taught us. And the major aspect is the first law in the Grand Lodge of Wat says, man, know thyself. And you need to know who you are, that God speaks through you. And that if you be still and know that you are God, that God speaks through you, and you are an example of God. So when I sit with my clients, that's why I say I'm not boring, because God's in the room. God comes in the room, and the thing is that before I do anything, even when I do my seminars, I tell folks, you've got to word, sound, power. Jesus taught that, the power of the word. He speaks of it in the parables. You have got to realize you've got to eliminate some of the negative verbiage that comes out. First thing out of our mouths, what is it? I'm broke. I tell folks, I want to hear that because there's no such word as broke. And I am, which is God, cannot be broke. So how could you be broke? It was said in the parables that my Father has many, many mansions, and all I have to do is go there. So why am I limited? So I tell folks when we do seminars is eliminate, look in that pocketbook and see prosperity. That's where the metaphysics comes from, is to teach that power within you, that communicative power. We think limit, and there is no limit with God. So can you do both? Can you be a spiritual person and make money and enjoy life? Well, that's what you're supposed to. Who said that we had to be broke? I did not see that anywhere, that I had to be broke. I had to have nothing. I had lack. Then I wouldn't be a child of God.
Well, he says, I wish above all things that you may be in health and prosper.
That's
even
right.
As your soul prospers.
As your soul prospers. So why would not? Who would want to go and follow someone who is just totally broken down and destitute? Where is God? Where is God there? No, when we talk about, I'm not saying greed, gluttony, all those sinful things. I'm talking about knowing who you are and walking with the fact and the faith that knows that God provides for me. And as I work and I walk, I know that good is coming to me. But no, we sit back and we talk about, I don't have anything, never going to have anything, not going to do anything, no, no, no. My mother taught us never to use the word can't. She says there's no such word as that. You don't prefer to do it. You don't think you want to do it. Okay, but can't? No, you can. You can do anything you want to do. So when it comes to a spiritual basis, is to know that even when you see that purse or that wallet empty, you know something's coming. And you're waiting for that word to, where do I go next? There's been many people of great wealth, even the man in the White House right now. I mean, $900 million in debt. Some of us would have had a heart attack by then. $900 million in debt. No, he just opened up another casino. Now, I wouldn't say he's such a man of God, but I will say is that he works on God's principles because he walks in faith. Because he went to become president of the United States because he said so.
Yeah.
So, you know, why do we as a people, especially people of color who know God, why do we always go the opposite end and go for lack and think of less? I mean, just the mere fact that we have the nerve to call ourselves minorities. How do you call yourself a minority when you are the majority of the world? Any place you go, it doesn't matter where. Even you go to the coldest places, Switzerland and Greenland, you see us. Come on. We think too much in a lack zone, and you've got to think big. You know, you've got to see, you've got to reach for the stars, because if you reach for the stars, you might jump on one of the moon. Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, you're a woman who has achieved so much for herself. Would you say, I know a lot of women have done a lot in recent times, but would you say that women are limited by the society or by themselves?
I'd have to say, and it's hard to say it, but we limit for ourselves. I hate to say it, but that's the truth, you know, and it's because no one can stop you or take anything from you that's yours, and you're rightfully yours. So the reality is we limit ourselves. You know, if one door closes, you know, there were doors that closed on me. There were people that treated me very badly. Even to today, there are people who will walk by my office and they'll ask for, well, where's the owner? And I'm like, hello, you know? Yeah. But does that stop me? No. You know, no, because that's their loss. You know, there are people who will take their investment away because they finally see what I look like. You know, the reason why I keep my hair in braids is to let them understand that I do have a natural part to me. You know, and I can, because I can. Because when I was on Wall Street, no, I had to straighten my hair. I wore suits. I even wore ties because I was being the good old boys club. So I did that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just me, you know? So if I see that, and that's what I say to the children that are out there, the young folks, do what you want to do. What the power is today, this is the world of entrepreneurship. What can you do at 7 o'clock in the morning and still be doing it at 7 o'clock in the evening and not stop because you're so passionate about it? And then how do you get paid to do that? That's what entrepreneurship is about. And we all, you say about God, we came here all with God-given talents. We just sort of forgot how to use them. You know, I remember in Ghana when I went, they told us we had day names, you know, and that the day that you walked in, that's your totem that you came in on. So I came in on a Monday. And I'm a mediator, you know. I can talk to people, and I do, you know, and I get to understand who they are, but I get paid to do that. I get paid to do that, you know, and by working with my clients, I love my clients. Sometimes they're a real big headache, but I love them, you know. They've taught me a lot. Their life experiences have been my life experiences. When they have had losses, I've had losses, you know. And this has been a great life, you know. People say that you are to rejoice in the leaving and you have the sorrow in the coming in. Well, I'm at peace. If anything should happen to me, I have lived a great life. I'm going to do many more great things, but this has been a great life. It's a great experience.
Oh.
So that's it. ahead.
Highest moment.
Oh,
It would
goodness.
have to be the day you met me.
Okay, it was the day I met you. I work real well with that. It's the highest.
I know. Tell me.
Oh, it's so many highs.
Oh.
There's so many. You know, I remember when I became a minister that I didn't expect to be. When I realized I did my first buy-sell agreement on for the tax office. Oh goodness. The adventures of going to Egypt for the first time, I remember that. I've had many, oh my goodness. And just being around and having great friends and family. And to know I am really never alone. You know, I have known that all my life. You know, people ask, you know, where's your spirituality? God and I are one. You know, I'm just blessed. You know, so even when there are low moments, there are high moments. And then when there's high moments, well, it just gets better. And then, you know, it's not in the things, it's in the experience, or what one of my clients said so well, it's the journey. I've had this journey I'm on. And it's a wonderful journey because I don't know what other doors are going to open up. You know, when I first started out, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Well, God, they say, tell God your plans and give him a good joke, because that's what happened. It was a good joke because I never got to be a lawyer. But there are people who think I really am, because I studied the laws, but I studied the laws that apply to the taxes in the investment world, you know. But there's so much more to know and so much more to do and so many lives to help. You know, what the wonderment of, I remember one special moment with my clients. One of my clients was abused by her husband. And we had set up all these investments for her, but then she disappeared. She went into a protection program. Well, about 8 years ago, I get a telephone call. And she said, this woman asked, are you Yana Woodhouse? And I said, yeah, because she saw my stuff on the internet. She says, you may not remember me. And she gave me her name. I said, of course, where have you been? She says, I want to thank you. My son went to college because of you. I'm getting ready to retire, and I want you to handle my money because of what you've done for me through the years. Are you still in the business? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still in it. She says, please please take care of me. That's awesome. That's awesome. That meant I touched a life. And it wasn't just the money. I touched her in a way. She says, you gave me the fight to be able to live my life. And now I'm living. I am living. And so she just retired down to Florida. And so she says, if you ever wind up in Florida, you got a room. You know, and many stories like that, you know, that make me, that's the joy. Because when I had a stroke when I was 25 years old while I was serving on Wall Street. Yeah, I was working ridiculous. And I said, gosh, this is going to be terrible. I'm going to die, and the only thing people are going to remember me for is I was good with money. So I had a little conversation with God and said, if you just give me back my ability to write and keep me healthy so that I can change some lives, I will put you first.
See why I said today's story is about inspiring so many. Now, there are a lot of young women out there who are watching and who are saying, I'd like to be like you someday. I'd like you to look into the camera and just tell them something, a word of advice.
You can do anything that you want to do. As long as you know you have God and your spirit together and you know who you are, you can do anything. And don't let anyone or anything on this physical planet stop you. You just say to them, yes, I can. Those are the words my mother gave me, and I give them to you. Yes, you can. Just get started, and don't let anyone stop you.
On and on and on. But I guess this is where we just have to stop. I love you so much.
Love you too. We're going to stay in touch.
Yes, definitely.
Now, my new name is
Ndidi.
Ndidi. Okay.
Ndidi.
Oh. Okay. All right.
Do you know your Igbo?
Igbo.
Yeah.
I'm learning it.
Your Igbo. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a fantastic time with Ndidi, and hope to be back again. Oh, no, she's coming to Nigeria sometime this year / next year.
Yes.
And we hope to have you there.
We will. Thank you
God
so
bless
much.
you.
Bless you too. Definitely.
All right, guys. See you.
Thank you.